But I just say to you, we have been given very clear instructions to say we're ending wasteful spending, we're stopping dumb programs that aren't working. We're very comfortable to have organisations reorganise themselves so that they can actually deliver.
Lloyd's got a good question here about that.
Improved outcomes for New Zealanders.
Okay, is dumb spending is training detector dogs? Is that dumb spending? Because 2 out of 3 detector dog training roles, you're getting rid of those.
Spending.
Again, those will be issues for actual CEs of biosecurity in this case, or customs, to make sure that they've got the resources in the right places to deliver.
Unless there's massive drug importation goes up, then a minister will raise their head and say we must have more dogs that detect. So when it turns around and bites you in the ass, let me think, I'll get a random out of there, like the Suicide Prevention Office, then you'll get involved. You can't have it both ways, and we're not going to let you forget.
But the outcomes that we will hold them accountable for. Let's be really clear. I'm moving government to focus on outcomes and delivery to improve services for New Zealanders.
But how do you do that?
How CEOs then choose to do that, how they choose to spend their budgets, how they choose to use their human resources, how they choose to use their priorities around the programs that they're doing, stopping stuff that's not working, putting more resources into things that are. That is how CEOs get different results with actually the same amount of money or different use of deployment of resources. So
notice the stutter? With the same amount of money, or because he couldn't quite say publicly, or far less money. That's where the lie comes out. Remember, when he stumbles, he's lying.
CEOs get different results with actually the same amount of money or different use of deployment of resources. So, I just want everyone to understand, just that the quantum of money is important. As I said, we're going to invest more in the budget and some of our key frontlines.
There you go. And he goes on. Now, Chewy, I've got one other thing I want to add to this. He's
got the money. He's got the money. He's got a massive pool of money that is currently earmarked for landlords. Yeah. You make all of these problems go away. He chooses not. There is something he will not touch. I wonder why that is.
And remember, that's one of the other things we will not let them forget. We will not let them forget when they try and say, we can't afford it. No, you've just made choices. Now, pardon me, here's a really important thing as well. They have been saying frontline services, not frontline roles. However, every time that I found, I've been looking back to see if that was true and accurate, and it seems to be, but what they also do is every time they talk about frontline services, here's a speech from the 87th National Party Conference, for example. This is Nicola Willis's speech. Every time they talk about frontline services, they link it to frontline roles. So they might be saying services, but the example they give of the services is always the roles. Here's an example straight out of Nicola Willis's speech. Billions of dollars have been wasted on consultants, centralisation, and ideological projects instead of bolstering the frontline services. We need more nurses, doctors, and midwives. So she said frontline services, but then she explained what that meant was more individuals on the front line. So do not allow this government now to change the narrative when they go, no, we're not talking about roles, we're talking about services. Because right up until now, every time they've talked about services, they've given the example of more human beings. So they've been talking about the roles. I'll read it again. Instead of bolstering the frontline services, we need more nurses, doctors, and midwives. So they're giving examples of frontline staff. Don't let them flip the switch now. And when frontline staff get cut, they'll start to say, we never talked about staff. We always talked about services. When you talked about services, you quantified it by talking about staff. We can't let them do it, Joey. Kia ora again, whānau. The clip you've just watched is brought to you today by our patrons. If you want to be a part of what we do, if you want to get behind what we're doing, if you're enjoying our content and wanting to share our content, then maybe you would consider being a patron to Big Hairy News. Head to www.patreon.com/Big Hairy News to sign up to one of our levels and be a patron. At this point, we are only a listener and viewer supported show. It all comes down to you guys. If you feel like jumping on board to help, then head to patreon.com/Big Hairy News. Hooroo!